So, tonight's the night. The big night. The initiation. Everyone talks about it like it's this huge milestone, like it's a rite of passage that every guy goes through, and if you make it, you're officially part of the brotherhood. They all tell you that this is what being in a frat is all about, that it's the best decision you'll make in your college life. But honestly, I'm not feeling all that excited. I mean, yeah, I want to be part of the group, but the idea of what's about to happen, it's starting to feel off. You know that sinking feeling in your gut that you can't shake? That's me right now. But then again, I can't back out now. It's not like I have a choice. Once you're in, no turning back. And I'm barely 19, a freshman. I don't know what I was expecting, but definitely not this. The whole thing starts with them blindfolding us. Me and the other guys in my pledge class. It feels so strange, so wrong. We're just thrown into cars, and for all I know, we could be driving to the middle of nowhere for all I care. The guys in the car are silent. Not a word. The tension's thick in the air. I can feel my heart pick up speed, pounding in my chest. I try to keep calm, but I'm really not sure what to think anymore. I'm trying to make sense of it, but it's hard to focus with the blindfold on. We get dropped off at some place. No idea where. It's dark, and I can barely hear anything beyond the sound of my breathing. The gravel beneath my shoes feels sharp, like it's digging into my soles, but I can't even see. I try to steady myself, but the fear is creeping in now. What's going on? Where are we? What happens next? The silence around me doesn't make things any better. It makes everything feel so much worse. I don't know how long I've been sitting there, but it feels like an eternity. The blindfold is starting to press against my face, and I can barely breathe through it anymore. Everything feels heavier with every second. The world around me is just dark and silent. The only sounds I can make out are nature's whispers, the occasional rustle of leaves in the breeze, the rhythmic chirp of crickets, and the distant howl of an animal I can't quite place. I'm trying to listen, trying to make sense of it all, but it doesn't help. I'm alone. Well, not exactly alone, but everyone else is silent. There are other guys out here with me. I can hear them shuffling around, breathing in the same heavy, nervous air. But no one speaks. Not a word. Not a single sound except for the crickets and the rustling leaves. I wonder if they're as uncomfortable as I am. Or maybe they're just pretending. Maybe they've done this before and they're used to it, but it's not like that for me. I can feel my heart starting to pound harder in my chest. The more I try to calm myself down, the worse it gets. My mind's racing, spinning out of control. What are we doing out here? Why are we blindfolded? This isn't normal, right? I try to reassure myself, tell myself that it's just part of the initiation, that I knew it was going to be uncomfortable. I remind myself that it's all part of the deal. But God, the longer I sit here, the more I start to question that. Is this normal? This eerie silence, this feeling of being watched. I keep thinking about the guys in the other cars, the way they seemed just as tense as I felt. It's all too much. There's something off about it all, and I can't shake the feeling that we're being led somewhere we might not want to go. I'm caught off guard when someone grabs me by the arm. My body tenses up. My heart leaps into my throat. For a split second, I think I might scream, but I don't. I stay quiet, barely moving. The grip on my arm is firm, unyielding, and before I can even process what's happening, the blindfold is ripped off my face. The sudden rush of light is blinding, moonlight, weak and distant, barely enough to illuminate the jagged shapes around me. I squint against the sharpness of it, my eyes struggling to adjust. The air is cold, so much colder than I expected. It feels like it's seeping into my bones, chilling me right through. But there's no time to take it all in, no moment to breathe it in. Without warning, I'm shoved forward, forced into a stumbling walk. I try to regain my balance, but there's nothing stable here. No path, no clear direction. The ground is uneven, covered in rocks, roots, and thorny branches that tear at my skin as I trip and stumble forward. I don't know where I'm going. I don't know why we're walking. And honestly, I can't even think straight. It's like everything's happening in a blur, my brain unable to catch up with my feet. The forest, if that's even what it is, feels like it's closing in on me. The trees pressing closer, the air growing thicker with each step. I'm moving, but it's hard to judge how far we've gone. It feels like an eternity, like we've walked miles, but it's impossible to tell in the dark. Then I hear it, a voice. It's sharp, a command that cuts through the air like a blade. My feet stop, instinctively, my body tensing again. The voice doesn't sound like the others. It's colder, more deliberate, like someone who knows exactly what they're doing. And when they tell me to take off the blindfold, I hesitate. For a second, I think I've misheard, but then I do it anyway. Something in my gut tells me that I have no choice. As I rip the blindfold off, the reality of the situation hits me like a punch to the stomach. There's no turning back. Whatever happens next, I'm already in too deep. I don't know what I was expecting, but it wasn't this. Not in a million years. The figure steps into my line of sight, and for a moment I can't process it. A man. Tall, he's wearing all black, almost like he's part of the night itself. But what stops me cold is the mask. A white vendetta mask, completely blank, emotionless. I'm staring at that mask, and it's like the world has paused around me. I can't breathe, I can't move. I want to, but my legs won't respond, and all I can do is stand there frozen. The silence between us stretches. He doesn't say anything. He doesn't even make a sound as he steps closer. That mask, mocking, indifferent, stares back at me, and I can feel my pulse pounding in my ears. I'm starting to panic. I know I am, but I can't help it. It's suffocating. The air's too thick, too still, and then, just as I'm about to lose it, he lunges at me. I barely react in time. His hands grab me, pulling me toward him with unnatural force. The world tilts as I'm yanked off balance. What the hell is happening? I can't think straight. I don't even know if I'm still in control of my body. I'm caught in a scuffle, on the ground with him tugging at me like he's trying to drag me somewhere. I can't let this happen. My hands, numb from the fear, finally find some strength. With everything I have, I shove him away, using every ounce of adrenaline flooding through me. I don't think, I just move. I don't even know where I'm running to, but it doesn't matter. The only thing in my head is to get away from him, from whatever the hell this is. I can hear his footsteps behind me, too close, too fast, but I don't dare look back. I can't. If I look back, I know I won't be able to keep going. So I just keep running, blindly, heart hammering in my chest, praying I don't fall. I have no idea how I even managed to get out of the woods. I don't remember the steps, the turns, or the path I took. All I know is that somehow I'm standing at the edge of the trees, my chest heaving, heart still racing like it's about to explode. My mind is a fog, a mess of confusion, fear, and adrenaline. I can't focus on anything. Everything's spinning, and then, without warning, I crash right into one of the brothers. He grabs me by the shoulders, steadying me. I don't even know his name, just some guy from the frat, but right now he's the only thing keeping me from collapsing. I open my mouth to explain, to tell him about the guy in the mask, but the words get caught in my throat. It doesn't even feel real. What did I even see? The panic that's been building in my chest threatens to explode, but it's like my body's too tired to react anymore. Before I can even finish the thought, another brother rushes past me, then another, and another. They're all headed in the same direction, and for a moment I wonder if they're looking for him. The masked man. I don't know what's happening, but it's not right. I try to explain again, my voice shaky, but no one's listening. I don't even know if they can hear me. No one else seems to know what I'm talking about. They all just look at me like I'm part of the game, part of the initiation. Maybe they think I'm just caught up in some strange ritual. Hell, I don't know what to think anymore. But something's off, the way they're moving. The way they're not even stopping to ask if I'm okay. It doesn't feel like just another hazing. There's a tension in the air, something darker, and for the first time since I've been here, I can't shake the feeling that maybe this whole thing was never about the brotherhood. Maybe it's something else entirely. It's hours later, and I'm still trying to piece everything together, but honestly, it's all just a blur in my head. The memories don't line up right, like I'm missing parts of the story. I'm sitting there, surrounded by brothers, trying to focus, but it's like my brain won't cooperate. I keep replaying it over and over, hoping that maybe the answers will show up, but nothing makes sense. Then one of the guys who went after the masked figure comes back, his face pale, eyes wide. He's shaking as he tells us what he saw. The story isn't part of the initiation. This wasn't a prank or some weird, twisted ritual. He says they found a bonfire glowing bright in the middle of a clearing, and there were people around it, dozens of them, dressed in black, all wearing masks. But these weren't just students from the frat. These weren't people we knew. They weren't part of anything we had planned. This wasn't some elaborate, over-the-top hazing. No one had told us about this, and it felt like no one even knew it was happening. When those people saw them, they scattered, ran off into the woods like they had something to hide. There was no way this was just a mistake. It wasn't a prank. There was something else going on out there, something none of us were supposed to see. The cops were called. They did a search, but that was it. They found nothing. No evidence. No sign of anything unusual, just an empty woods. I don't know if I'm losing it, but I can't shake the feeling that something happened out there. Those people, the ones in the masks, who were they? What the hell were they doing? And why the hell does it feel like we've been part of something way darker than just a stupid initiation? It's been days now, but that feeling, it's still there. It hasn't gone away. I keep trying to convince myself that it's just the aftermath of everything that happened, that it's just the adrenaline still coursing through my veins. Maybe it's the fear lingering, playing tricks on me, but something about it doesn't feel right. I can't shake the sensation that someone's always watching me, always just out of sight. It's a low-grade anxiety, one that gnaws at you when you're alone, and you can't quite figure out why. I keep looking over my shoulder, even when I know it's pointless. I try to tell myself it's nothing, just my mind still on edge, but I can't help it. At night, it's worse. I hear things, footsteps in the hall, faint noises just outside my door. It's so quiet, but it's there. The sound of someone pacing, stopping, then starting again. The hairs on the back of my neck stand up, but when I check, there's no one there. I try to convince myself that it's just the building settling, or some stupid prank from the guys, but it doesn't feel like that. My thoughts always go back to the woods. I keep replaying that moment when I was running, the panic, the breathlessness. But what I can't forget is the feeling of someone right behind me. I don't know if I imagined it, but I don't think I did. I can still hear their footsteps in my head, and it wasn't just me. Every time I think about it, it hits me again. The fact that someone was out there, someone who wasn't supposed to be, but no one believes me. I can't stop wondering if they're still out there, following me, waiting. The worst part is, I don't know how to shake it off. The fear hasn't left me, and I'm starting to wonder, what if it never will? I still don't know where they dropped us off. I've looked at maps, retraced possibilities, but nothing matches. Somewhere near Pelham Point, maybe. Somewhere you can hear the ocean, but not see it. That night, we were blindfolded in the back of some van, bouncing over what felt like miles of dirt and gravel. Every turn felt wrong. Every stop felt like it was final. When the van finally halted, they pulled us out, one by one, tying us together with this crusty rope that smelled like mildew and gasoline. It should have been funny, like classic frat hazing stuff, right? But there was no laughter, no chanting, no stupid shouting, just silence. Deliberate, careful silence. The kind that makes you realize someone planned this part. They didn't say a word, just marched us out like cattle, boots crunching behind us. Then they left, literally just turned around and left us there in the dark. No flashlights, no phones, no signal, just wind hissing through the dunes and the occasional rustle of something you hoped was just seagrass. I kept thinking it would turn into something, like a guy would jump out and yell, "Gotcha," or there'd be a drone filming us for their Instagram. But it didn't happen. Hours passed, or maybe minutes, I couldn't tell, and it stayed dark and quiet. The thing that got me, though, I didn't know half the guys I was tied to, couldn't see their faces, couldn't hear their voices clearly. Some were breathing hard. One guy kept coughing, but none of us spoke much. I think we were all waiting for the punchline that never came, and the longer it stayed quiet, the more it felt like we weren't part of some prank, but something else entirely. Walking felt wrong from the start. The sand was soft but uneven, like it had been walked over too many times by too many people who didn't know where they were going. My feet kept sinking in, throwing off my balance. Every few steps, the rope jerked at my waist from whoever was in front of me, and I'd lurch forward before catching myself. It didn't feel like a line of guys moving together. It felt like we were all just drifting. The guy in front of me, I'm pretty sure his name was Kellen. He wasn't walking right. He kept veering, staggering slightly to one side, then the other, like he was drunk or dizzy. I kept watching his silhouette wobble in the moonlight. For a second I honestly thought he might fall, or worse, just bolt off into the dark. I wanted to say something, ask if he was okay, but the words didn't come out. My throat tightened, and I just let it go. Then someone behind me puked. No warning, no sound before it. Just this wet splash and a choked groan. I flinched, but I didn't look back. Nobody did. We all just kept walking like it hadn't happened. No one said a word. Not even the guy who threw up. There was this weird weight to it, like we all felt that stopping, acknowledging it, would make things worse. That if we pretended it didn't happen, we might make it out of there sooner. But every step felt heavier than the last. The rope kept tugging. The wind kept picking up. And in the back of my head, something started to gnaw at me. Something I couldn't name yet, but it was there. That feeling like we'd already gone too far in, and none of us had the guts to say it. I didn't even notice it at first. I was too focused on my feet, on not twisting my ankle in that god-awful sand. But then I felt it, this weird shift in the rope, like something had changed. It wasn't pulling me forward anymore. It wasn't pulling at all. It just sagged, loose and dragging. I nearly tripped over it. At first I thought maybe the guy ahead of Kellen had just paused to tie his shoe or something dumb like that. But we weren't supposed to have shoes, or stop, or think. We were just supposed to follow, keep going. So I kept going. But something about that slack started getting to me. I realized I hadn't felt tension in the rope for longer than made sense. Kellen was still moving, still weaving a little. But the person in front of him, Marsh, I think. He wasn't. He was just gone. I strained to hear something. A footstep, a voice, even a splash if he'd tripped and hit the water. But there was nothing. Not a single sound. That silence pressed in so hard it almost felt physical, like it was squeezing around my ears. Then, just when I started to slow down, thinking maybe we needed to stop, maybe we needed to turn around, the rope yanked forward, hard, like someone had grabbed it and pulled, not to guide us but to jolt us. And I swear it didn't feel like Marsh was back. It felt heavier, like whoever, or whatever, was at the front now, had something to prove. Nobody said anything, not even Kellen. I wanted to ask if he felt it too, but I didn't, and no one ever brought up Marsh again. Like if we didn't speak his name, maybe we wouldn't end up like him. I remember the moment the sand changed. It was subtle at first, less shifting underfoot, more solid, like we were stepping onto something packed down by the water. Then the cold hit, like a switch flipped. I didn't see the tide coming. None of us did. One step it was damp grit. The next it was water up to my shins, then my knees. It felt like we'd walked right into the ocean, like they'd led us straight off the edge of the world. The blindfold didn't help, but even if I'd been able to see, I don't think it would have made a difference. I didn't know where we were, didn't know which direction we came from. The wind picked up hard out there, colder than I was ready for. My hands were stiff around the rope, and I couldn't feel my toes anymore. Someone near me, close enough that I felt their panic through the rope, went down hard. I heard the splash, the scramble. It felt like he was crawling for a while, but I never felt him stand back up. I still don't know if he did. I didn't ask. No one did. We just kept moving, like the rope was pulling us and not the other way around. That was the worst part, not knowing if I was following or being dragged, if anyone was even still leading us, or if we were just circling out into deeper water, one by one disappearing under the current. The salt air burned my nose. The cold sunk in so deep it felt personal, and still, I didn't let go. That stupid rope, soaked and fraying, felt like the only thing anchoring me to anything real, even if it wasn't, even if it never was. I didn't hear it at first. It just appeared out of the fog like something drifting between dreams and reality. A flat-bottomed boat, barely noticeable, just hanging there in the water. It could have been waiting for us for hours, for all I knew. I didn't even question it at first. I didn't question anything anymore. Not after everything. There was a man on the boat, an older guy, maybe in his 50s, but I couldn't say for sure. His face stayed hidden in shadow, like he knew not to let us see him too clearly. He didn't say a word. He didn't need to. He just pointed once, that quick, cold gesture, and then turned away as if we'd all gotten the message. It felt like a dream, honestly, but not a peaceful one. Just strange. We climbed in one by one. Nobody questioned it. There wasn't even a conversation. Not that I could have said anything. What would I have asked? Why was I here? Where was Marsh? What happened to Kellen? But no one else spoke either. We just got in. I don't even know how I ended up sitting where I did. I just did. The boat was silent. No engine, no motor, nothing. It didn't even ripple the water. It felt like we were just floating. The eerie part? It wasn't even like we were being rowed. It was more like we were being dragged, slowly dragging through the water. A movement so quiet, so deliberate. It felt like we were headed somewhere no one wanted to name, but we were already too far gone to turn back. The mist swallowed everything, and that damn rope never stopped pulling. We were just going, still going. The boat just dropped us off. No fanfare, no goodbyes. They left us on this cold patch of gravel, right next to a rusty chain-link fence, behind what looked like an old warehouse lot. There was no van waiting, no ride back to civilization, nothing. Just the dark, the fog, and the freezing cold. The boat drifted back into the mist, disappearing without a sound, like it had never been there at all. It felt wrong. That's the only way I can describe it. The silence was too thick, too heavy. I had this overwhelming urge to look around, but all I could see was the darkness stretching out in all directions. We were soaked, chilled to the bone, and nobody said a word. Not a single word. I remember standing there trying to make sense of it all, and it hit me how strange it was that nobody thought to call anyone. But then I realized, none of us had our phones. I didn't even remember the last time I saw mine. Was it back on the van? Did they take them? Did they even care? The walk back to the frat house felt endless, longer than it should have. We didn't talk. We didn't look at each other. One guy was limping badly, barely keeping his balance. Another kept humming under his breath, like he couldn't stop himself. It was like none of us had any words left. It was just that heavy silence. I kept glancing over my shoulder, half expecting someone to jump out of the fog, but there was nothing. The whole way back, I kept wondering what the hell had happened to Marsh, why nobody cared. But I didn't ask. I didn't even bring it up. It was like we were all in on some secret, one we weren't ready to face just yet. The next day, Kellen was gone. Like poof, disappeared without a trace. His mattress was bare, untouched, like he had never even spent a night there. His duffel bag was still in the corner of the room, just sitting there. I stood there for a minute, trying to make sense of it, but I couldn't. I asked around casually at first, just checking in with a few guys, wondering if he'd left or maybe transferred. Everyone just kind of stared at me. No one said a thing. No one even made an effort to offer an explanation. And it wasn't like they didn't know who I was talking about. They knew Kellen. We all did. But nobody seemed bothered. It was like he'd never existed in the first place. Or maybe they were too busy pretending not to notice. Later that night, I found a coil of rope outside my door. It was just sitting there. No note, no explanation, just the rope. I stared at it for what felt like forever, trying to figure out what the hell I was supposed to do with it. Was it a warning, a reminder, or just some twisted part of the ritual that had already been forgotten by everyone else? I didn't touch it. I don't even know if I was supposed to. I just kept thinking about Kellen, about Marsh, about that feeling of being abandoned out there in the dark. Was this the kind of brotherhood I signed up for? Was I really part of something, Or was I just another pawn in a game I couldn't even begin to understand? It wasn't like I could leave either. The thought crossed my mind. But where would I go? Would it even matter? Would anyone notice? I kept telling myself it was just part of the hazing. You know, one of those dumb errands they throw at you late at night to see how far you'll go to prove you're in. I mean, it started off like that. Kellen called, sounding all serious, said it was some Craigslist pickup situation, and I figured, all right, maybe we're getting a junker truck for the next round of stunts. Harmless, stupid, and very on-brand for the guys. Kellen took the lead in his truck, and I trailed behind in my Civic, which coughed every time we hit a bump. The address we had wasn't even real, just coordinates pasted into a group chat with no context. That alone felt off, but I was still laughing it off in my head, thinking maybe they'd jump out of a cornfield in masks or blast an air horn when I parked. That was the expectation, dumb, predictable frat prank. But the farther we drove, the quieter it got. First, no more cars. Then, no houses. Then the streetlights disappeared altogether. We passed that old refinery, the one people said got shut down after an accident nobody wants to talk about, and after that it was like stepping into a dead zone. Road cracked in all directions, trees half dead, some of them burned. No signs, no signal. I glanced at my phone again, GPS froze, screen glitching like the coordinates couldn't stick, and then the name hit me again. Dyer Crossings, a place I swear I'd never heard of until that night. But it sounded familiar in a way I didn't like something whispered once and never repeated. That's when it stopped feeling like a prank. It felt like we were heading towards something we weren't supposed to find. We pulled up where the gravel gave out, just before the old track line cut through the brush like a scar. The kind of place you wouldn't stop at unless someone dared you to. No sign of a truck, no headlights, no seller leaning on a hood with a cigarette like I half expected. It was just empty, or at least it seemed like it. The second I opened my door, I got hit with this awful smell like something burned a long time ago and never quite stopped smoldering. But underneath, it was something else, sharper, like decay, wet, and old. I remember thinking maybe there was roadkill nearby, or someone dumped a dead animal out here. But I didn't see anything. I kept looking around, waiting for someone to pop out or yell, "Gotcha." That would have made sense. But the longer I stood there, the more I felt like we weren't alone, not in the someone's hiding way. It was different, like we were already being observed. Then I saw him. He was across the tracks, just standing there near the tree line, not walking up, not doing anything, just still, too still. At first I thought maybe he'd been part of the plan, a scare prop or one of the older brothers trying to mess with us. But something about how he stood, arms loose, head slightly tilted, like he was trying to listen to something only he could hear. It didn't match any prank I've ever seen. I didn't see him get there. One minute it was just the trees, and the next, there he was, like he'd always been there. Like he'd been watching long before I ever noticed. That's what got to me the most. I didn't know how long he'd been watching. I still can't explain what made us do it. Maybe it was the pressure, just the kind of dumb decision you make when you're trying to prove you're not the one who backs out. Maybe we thought we could just circle around and come out the other side, avoid him completely. Or maybe there was this part of us that still believed it was all fake, like someone was waiting inside with a GoPro and a stupid laugh. But we went in, like idiots. The tunnel was part of an old freight line, or maybe just a runoff route no one had used in years. It didn't matter. It looked wrong, like something nature had tried to take back but hadn't quite finished swallowing. The mouth of it was stained, cracked, like a rotted tooth stuck in the hillside. And once we stepped inside, everything changed. My signal died the second I crossed the edge. No bars, nothing. Just black glass. It felt colder than it should have. Not just cooler, cold, damp, like the air was clinging to me. I could hear water dripping somewhere, slow and steady, but it echoed weird, like the tunnel was deeper than it looked. The flashlight on my phone flickered once when I turned it on. That should have been enough to make me leave right there. We didn't talk. I think we were too focused on moving forward. Each step felt louder than it should have, like the tunnel was swallowing our sounds and throwing them back behind us. My eyes kept scanning the edges, half expecting someone to jump out, but it was just mold, concrete, old graffiti no one could read anymore. And the worst part, I think we were too far in before either of us realized there was no prank, no camera crew, nothing but us and whatever the hell we'd just stepped into. I keep replaying the way it sounded in my head, trying to convince myself it was just our nerves or the echo messing with us. But no matter how many times I run it back, I know what I heard. There was something else in there with us. I never saw anything, nothing clear. Anyway, but the tunnel had this way of making sound feel alive. Every step we took scraped the gravel just enough to bounce noise off the walls. But then there'd be these other sounds too, ones that didn't match our rhythm, like shuffling, light, uneven, too slow to be ours, but too steady to be random. Once or twice I heard a soft metallic clink, like an old pipe chain swinging against itself, but there was nothing hanging from the ceiling, nothing left in the space that should have been able to move. At one point, I heard breathing. I know how that sounds, but it was just a little behind us. Raspy, like someone trying not to breathe too hard, but still sucking in air through their teeth. I glanced at Kellen when I heard it, and I could tell he heard it too. He tried to joke, like he always does, something about ghosts or rats, but his voice cracked halfway through, and he didn't finish the sentence. That silence that followed was the worst part. We kept walking like nothing was wrong, but every footstep felt like a mistake. Whatever it was, it didn't charge us. It didn't scream or grab or make some horror movie move. It just moved when we moved, paced us, stayed behind, just enough to stay out of view, just enough to feel real without ever showing itself. That made it feel way more deliberate. I don't know what made me turn back, but I did. Maybe it was instinct, maybe just a growing feeling that something wasn't right. Either way, I glanced over my shoulder and saw it, a shadow. No, not just a shadow, a shape, a figure. It wasn't the same guy from before, the one I thought was just some random watcher out in the field. This one was different, taller, bulkier, like he'd been standing in the dark just waiting for us to turn around. I couldn't make out details at first, just the vague impression of something holding something else, some kind of object, a heavy dark outline in his hand. My phone light didn't reach far enough to show much, but it didn't matter. The way he stood there, centered in the tracks, made it clear he wasn't lost or stumbling like someone who had gotten caught up in the same mess we were in. He wasn't walking with any purpose, either. He just stood still, almost like he was waiting for us to react, waiting for us to notice. A pit dropped in my stomach. That wasn't normal. That wasn't anything I could explain. The weird thing was, he didn't chase us. He didn't run after us like I expected. No sudden rush, no fast footsteps, but we ran anyway. We ran as fast as we could, down that dark tunnel that seemed like it stretched longer with every step. The sound of our feet slamming against the floor was loud in the silence, but the worst part, the echo. It wasn't just bouncing off the walls, it stretched, it dragged, like it was trying to follow us, maybe even mimic us, but it was just off, always just behind, always never quite in sync. We didn't stop running, but we both knew we weren't alone. The sound kept coming, like it was made to chase us, or worse, make us keep running. I can still picture it. That hatch. I don't know what we were thinking. Maybe we weren't thinking at all. But when I saw it, I didn't hesitate. There it was, tucked away on the side of the tunnel. Rusted metal, half hidden by layers of old frat tags that had probably been scrawled there years ago by other idiots like us. It didn't seem like it belonged. It didn't feel like it was part of the tunnel, part of the plan. It was out of place, like something no one was supposed to notice. But I saw it, and for whatever reason, I went straight for it. Kellen didn't even question it either. We both had this silent agreement that if it was a way out, we were taking it. No hesitation, no second thoughts. We pulled at the hatch, surprised it even moved, and slid through as quickly as we could. I didn't care what it was. Didn't care if it was some kind of trap. At that point, we were just desperate to get away from whatever was on our tail. The space on the other side was tight, too tight, narrow and steep, more like a drainage shaft than anything else. I barely fit, scraping my arms and legs against the jagged edges as I slid down faster than I intended. The cold, damp air hit me as I went lower, like the kind of place that hadn't seen sunlight in decades. And the smell, earthy, stale, like water had been standing there too long. We kept going. I don't know where it led. I don't know what was waiting at the bottom, but all I could think about was getting away. I needed steel and concrete between us and whatever had followed us into that tunnel. I didn't care if we were running towards something worse. At least it felt like we were moving somewhere, and that was enough, for now. I remember my heart dropping when I saw it. We made our way down the shaft, feeling like we were descending into the belly of something we shouldn't have touched. The moment we hit the bottom, I felt a shift in the air, a thick sense of wrongness. Something wasn't right. At first glance, it looked like we'd reached a dead end, just a curve in the tracks, nothing out of the ordinary. But then I saw the scattered items, sleeping bags, a few old, half-empty food containers, and some empty water jugs that had probably been there longer than we realized. I thought maybe this was just some homeless camp, some place where people who had nowhere else to go might have set up. But when I looked closer, I saw something that stopped me dead in my tracks. Photos, dozens of them, crumpled on the ground like they had been thrown down in a hurry. Faces of guys, mostly young, like us. Some of them had Greek letters on their shirts. Others were wearing the same exact t-shirts we had been forced to wear during Pledge Week. It was jarring. I don't know why, but it was different when I realized that. These weren't strangers. They were like us. The realization hit hard, like someone had dropped a weight on my chest. It didn't feel like a joke anymore. It didn't feel like a prank. This wasn't some twisted hazing ritual. This was something real. Something that had been happening for a long time. Long before we even showed up. And the worst part? Nobody warned us. Nobody said a word about this. I don't know if they knew, if they'd just turned a blind eye to it, or if they'd been a part of it. But either way, we were in over our heads, and it was too late to back out now.